Thanks for coming back to NoobAquatics. This is Matthew again, and today we're going to go over setting up a new aquarium. Now in this video, not only will we show you what we do when we set up our new aquariums, but we'll also discuss the nitrogen cycle and what you should be doing with testing all the way up until the point of where you can just rely on your normal maintenance every week. Yeah, so this video is particularly for those that went out and bought an aquarium, bought fish, bought substrate, brought home that API quick start that too many fish stores recommend, and threw it all together. Well, for those people that have done that or want to cycle a brand new aquarium, that just want to learn how to do it, that's what this process is here that we're going to show you is for. It's for all those beginners that are looking to do the same thing. So first, you need an aquarium. We have a 3-gallon aquarium. All right, 3-gallon. This is going to be home to some Neocaridina shrimp. All right, that's what this is going to be home to. You're also going to need an air pump, at least at the minimum. You can do a hang on the back filter or an internal filter, but if you're going to have shrimp, I recommend an air pump with a sponge filter. Now the sponge is missing because we use sponges from that are already seeded in other aquariums, but even if you don't have these available, following this process will still work the same way without a seeded sponge. You need a heater. All right, this right here is a heater that is rated up to 10 gallons, but it's going into a 3, and the reason is because if the heater doesn't have to work as hard to keep the temperature stable, then it's going to last you longer. And then if you need more room in your plugins, you're going to need a surge protector. Okay? Alright, and you're also going to need substrate. So down here you'll see this is aragonite sand mixed with black diamond blasting sand. And I'm going to stir that up and clean it up real good in the bathroom. So I got it in a 5-gallon bucket. I'm in the bathroom. I'm just going to keep filling this with water and keep filling it with water until this runs clear. Now here at NoobAquatics, we recommend live plants. Why do we recommend live plants even in small aquariums? It's because live plants filter out toxins. So if you can, get a pothos. This pothos right here is very good at filtering out toxins. And then some other plants that are good are fast growers. So if you want, you can get wisteria. You'll see right here. I'll show you. This is water wisteria. This is a fast grower. You can float it. It doesn't have to be in the substrate. We just like it in the substrate because we like how it looks like trees when it grows up. But this is water wisteria. Again, you can float it and it'll grow just fine. Another good plant that's a slow grower but is good for shrimp would be Java moss. Now the reason I mention this one here is because it doesn't require a lot of light. Hardly any light to grow. Okay, so really easy to grow. Just basically just throw it in a bucket with some water that's got some nutrients in it, and that stuff grows. So this right here, you'll see this big clump. This right here is the Java moss that I'm going to use for the shrimp. So I'm going to take that clump and I'm going to throw it into the aquarium. So that's going to be my filter. Plus it also provides an area where the shrimp can graze. Where we add the food in there. So depending on what you get, preferably not guppies, because guppies is more of an intermediate fish if you have a male and a female. But yeah, so Java moss, a good one. And another good one is right here. I don't know if you see this. This is guppy grass. Sometimes hard to find, but if you can get it started to grow, it'll just keep growing and keep growing and keep growing. All right, so that's the Java moss we're going to use in our little mini shrimp tank. Two other things you're going to need whenever you are starting a new aquarium will be Prime or Fritz Complete. Either one of these, so Fritz Complete or Prime. They both essentially do the same thing where they remove the chlorine and chloramine, but then they also, if you read right here, they detoxify ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate. So if you add fish or shrimp or anything on day 1, these things will keep them safe once the ammonia starts to show up. and it'll keep them safe once the nitrites start to show up. But once those start to show up, you know, using your test kits, you want to put this in every 24 hours. And then you're going to need something like stability. Now, Fritz also makes Fritz Zyme 7 for freshwater aquariums. We like stability because I have better luck getting stability at the places that I buy them, not expired. So Fritz, it's not your fault. It's mostly the sellers that you're selling it or that you're getting it from. But you'll see here that it's hard to see. So this was the first bottle that I bought, and you'll see here that it expires in 2024. Every bottle I bought after this one here expired 6 months from today, which was pretty sad. So I returned them all, bought this off of Ken's Fish and a few other places, and have not been, you know, dissatisfied with it at all. But it's essentially the same thing as the Fritz Zyme 7. Now also, there's going to be a few other things. So for us, in our water that comes out of the sink, we need to add equilibrium, all right, because it's not balanced. This right here is going to help us balance the calcium and the potassium in there in the water. That is not balanced in our sink water. And then our sink water comes out acidic, so we need to raise the pH of our water. And that's what this alkaline buffer does. This alkaline buffer does two things. It increases KH and it increases the pH. Neocaridina shrimp, they like a higher than 7 pH. They seem to thrive there, but as long as you have enough minerals in the water for them to molt, they tend to do really good. So these are the ones that we choose. If you need to bring your pH down, then you're going to look for the acid buffer. If you already have enough calcium, magnesium, and potassium and stuff in the water, then you probably won't need this. So the only way you'll find that out is if you test the water using API test kits. And then, of course, if you need more calcium in the water, because I found that just like snails, shrimp like extra calcium. This product by Brightwell Aquatics is one of the only products that we've had luck with this company. Is a calcium supplement that we add with water changes. So this will increase the calcium in your water because that's what's used to create the shells of the shrimp and everything. So we add a little bit more calcium to our water, and that makes our shrimp look amazing. So let's take a look at what our shrimp look like in our 40-gallon aquarium. So you'll see here, here's some of our cherry shrimp or red painted shrimp. We have all different, you know, classifications of red shrimp in here, and you can see they look amazing. We got tons of little babies in there, and it's hard to see, but there's also tons of clear ones in there that are all freshly born. You'll see more over here. You'll see in the Java moss back there a bunch of little red dots. They love it. And this tank right here is maintained at around 7 to 7.6 on the pH, and we do the equilibrium and the alkaline buffer and everything. That's what we do for, you know, setting up an aquarium. Those are the products that you're going to need to maintain the water stability. The next thing you're going to need, and let me get it here, you're going to need, all right, blah, 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 blah. This is going to be the API freshwater master test kit. You can get these right here for about $20–25 on Amazon. If it's higher than that, then you'll want to make sure that you monitor the price and get it when it's cheap. But this right here comes with everything you're going to need to set up a new aquarium. It's got the pH solution to test. It has the nitrite solution to test for nitrites. And then, of course, has the ammonia solution to test for ammonia. This will be the first test that you're going to run until you see ammonia. Once you see ammonia that day, every day, you're going to test every single day. But once you see ammonia, you're going to add Chem Prime or Frisk Complete immediately. Don't let your fish or inverts sit there in ammonia for too long before you neutralize it. And then every day, for every 24 hours, you're going to add that every single day. And then last but not least, it's got the nitrate. Now this is the very last one. So you're going to test for ammonia every day until you got ammonia. Alright, that'll be testing every single day. Test every single day. Once a day, test, test. Sometimes, and if you want, you can test twice a day. Alright, once you see ammonia, you're going to now test for ammonia and then nitrites. Alright, nitrites. Once you have nitrites, then you're going to test all three. You're going to test ammonia, you're going to test nitrites, and then you're going to test nitrates. Why do you do that? So the reason why you're going to start with testing ammonia first is because you want to make sure you have ammonia in there. Once you have ammonia in there, then you go to testing, like I said, the nitrites. Once you see nitrites, you're going to test for nitrates. The reason is because you never want ammonia to go above 2 parts per million. If it goes above 2 parts per million, then you need to change some water to get it down to 2 parts per million. Once you see nitrites, you don't want the combination of ammonia and nitrites to go above 4 parts per million. If you do, then the Fritz Complete and the Fritz Complete and the Seachem Prime, the Fritz Complete and the Seachem Prime, they may not be able to neutralize all of it because they have a limit on what they can neutralize before it starts being dangerous for the fish. So that's the rule of thumb. Ammonia never goes above 2 parts per million. That's set in stone. It can go lower, but it never goes above it. Now when you have nitrites, it's a combination. 2 parts per million of ammonia, 2 parts per million of nitrites, and that's when you can add the max dose of Seachem Prime or Complete. But let's just say ammonia goes down to 1 part per million. That means you can have 3 parts per million of nitrite. That's the combo that I'm talking about. All the way to where you have 0 ammonia and 4 parts per million of nitrite. Remember, if it stays within these parameters, do not do any water changes because the nitrifying bacteria will not have anything to consume and grow on. If you're changing water constantly because you see ammonia, you're just harming your cycle. So once you see the nitrites, you can automatically assume that within a few days or so, you're probably going to start seeing nitrates. Once you start seeing nitrates, then that's when you're going to still keep doing the 4 parts per million for the ammonia and the nitrites. Keep it lower than that total. Nitrates though, once it's 40 parts per million, if it goes higher than that, that's when you're going to start doing a water change to get that down. So basically 4 parts per million for the ammonia and nitrites, 40 parts per million or less on the nitrates. So that's how the cycle goes. So the nitrogen cycle is funny. Do you need anything in your tank to start that? You just need ammonia. When you put ammonia in there and you got the filter or the air stone in there converting carbon dioxide to oxygen, doing that exchange, bacteria will automatically start growing. But in order to speed up that process, that's when the Seachem stability comes in. With the Seachem stability, you're adding in nitrifying bacteria. That nitrifying bacteria then starts to consume the ammonia and starts growing. Now, at first, when you add it into the water, that nitrifying bacteria will be in the water column for a day or two. So do not change the water after you've added nitrifying bacteria. Now, once you have the nitrifying bacteria starting to solidify itself within the aquarium, it's not in the water column anymore. There might be a little bit in the water column, but that's not where the majority is. The majority of your nitrifying bacteria is going to be stuck to the objects in your aquarium. What do I mean by that? This coconut shell right here is going to have nitrifying bacteria on it. The stick, the plants, the rocks, the filter sponges, the hang on the back filter, the sponges in there, the filter media that you keep in there. It all houses the nitrifying bacteria. This piece of bark right here is going to have nitrifying bacteria on it that grabs a hold and lives there. Same thing with the sponge filter. It lives on the sponge. So changing out the water is okay after the cycle has been complete or you've met those parameters I'm talking about. The 2 parts per million ammonia, 4 parts per million total between ammonia and nitrite, or 4 parts per million only for nitrite, and then the 40 parts per million or less of the nitrates. Once you've gotten to the point where there's no ammonia, there's no nitrates, and all you see is nitrates, you could literally change all of the water out, which I wouldn't because then your fish would be flopping on the substrate, but you could put water back in there and your tank will technically still be cycled because your nitrifying bacteria is not in the water after it's fully cycled. It's literally found a home on all the objects in there. Now, don't ever do a 100% water change unless you got a problem in your aquarium. If you have a problem in your aquarium or own discus, I've seen and heard people saying that if you own discus, you're going to do 80+% water changes anywhere from 1 to twice a week, which is just crazy. But yeah, so we never do a 100% water change unless there's some kind of serious problem in the tank, such as a parasite or something like that floating around in the water. We're not going to do it. We do 25% water changes at the most weekly. So let's get back into this. So like I said, that's the the nitrogen cycle. The nitrogen cycle consists of ammonia converted into nitrite, and then it's converted into nitrate. And it does that automatically without any intervention as long as you put ammonia or have an ammonia source. What are some of these ammonia sources? So one ammonia source, which we've used successfully here, is just straight up ammonia. This is Fritz Fishless fuel. This is just straight ammonia. If you use this, you better not have any animals such as fish or crustaceans or anything like that, anything that's in there alive, because if you add ammonia like this straight in there and you have not taken care of neutralizing it, it may kill them. Now, if you put this in there to start the cycle, okay, then immediately after use this, some people think that that neutralizes this and it's no longer going to be in the aquarium. That's not true. As soon as you put this in there and you put this in there, or this prime, the ammonia is still there. It's just no longer toxic to your fish. But just don't add this when your fish are in there. You're going to do it when it's empty, no fish. That can start your cycle almost immediately. But if you're going to have fish in there or plants in there, don't go above 1 part per million when you use this. If you're going to cycle it without fish, follow the instructions. So some other sources of ammonia will be decaying plant matter. So if you put plants in your tank, all right, and you don't put any fish, you don't technically need an ammonia source, all right, because when you put brand new plants into a new tank, some of the leaves are going to die off, and when they do, they are going to create an ammonia source, because the leaves that die create ammonia. That ammonia will in turn feed the bacteria, and then when it feeds the bacteria, it'll go through the cycle. So plants can be used, all right, plants can be used, you see them all back here, to cycle an aquarium as well. Now that takes a very long time, even when adding bacteria in there. The next step is plants and fish. So you can add plants and fish at the same time, assuming you have enough air circulation, or I guess you could say carbon dioxide oxygen exchange going on in there to keep them alive. The plants and the fish are both going to create an ammonia source. So the plants' decaying leaves will create an ammonia source, and the fish, when they poop, will create an ammonia source. In fact, that'll be a much stronger ammonia source when they poop compared to just some of the old tricks, which is adding in food into the aquarium. I don't like that part. I don't like the fact that people throw in food and let the food decay. That takes forever, especially with the way some of these foods are, where it says that they are made to not, gunk up your water. So why throw in a food source that's not going to really do you any good? So poop from the fish. What do we do here? We cycle every aquarium that we've had with fish in the aquarium because we neutralize the ammonia, the nitrites, and the nitrates using Seachem Prime or Fritz Complete. That's how we cycle ours. That's how the fish remain safe. They're not in toxic water, and eventually your tank is 100% cycled. So that'll be the nitrogen cycle. You have to go through that in order to have a cycled aquarium. Now that doesn't mean your aquarium is a seasoned cycled aquarium. If you have a seasoned cycled aquarium, that means your aquarium's been established for 1+2 years and you don't see any fluctuations. That doesn't mean it'll never happen. It just means you don't see any fluctuations. So your cycle never crashes, your pH is much more stable, that type of thing. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to go through the process of actually putting this new aquarium together. So stay tuned and have a watch, and we will speed it up and try to make it more easily seen, but I'm going to do it as quick as I can, but it'll be on fast forward. Alright, when it comes to substrates like what we got here, you want to rinse it really well. Now this is assuming that it is a substrate that can be rinsed, so one that is inert or doesn't have any pre-cycled bacteria in it. So there are some out there that are made by Carib Sea that already have liquid in the bag, bacteria in the bag. For those, you just want to dump straight into the aquarium. But when it comes to what we have here, which is black diamond blasting sand and the argonite sand, you want to rinse it really well before you put it into your aquarium. Otherwise, it's going to take a very long time for that stuff to settle back down so that your aquarium is not cloudy. So yeah, so that's what we're doing here, is we're rinsing it really well. Here you'll see me creating the water for the aquarium. What you want to do is you want to make sure you always use a dechlorinator in your water. Seachem Prime is just that, as well as Fritz Complete. And then of course with us, we also add in the much needed minerals from Seachem Equilibrium, and then add in the alkaline buffer as well.
Minutes later.
Before plugging in your heater, you always want to make sure the heater has sat in the water for at least 30 minutes. Alright, so the next step, we added in a little bit extra Java moss right here. I took in one of my pre-cycled filter sponges. Alright, I added in some Bacter AE because, like I said, this tank here is getting Neocaridina shrimp. Alright, now I've already added in the stability, so even though it's a pre-cycled media, I still use Seachem stability in there. So I still added a full capful in there, which just is going to help boost the cycle. So I don't want the cycle to take 6 weeks or 12 weeks. I'm using pre-cycled media, and I'm adding in the bacteria. So inside there we got the plants, all right, pre-cycled media, and soon we'll have the inhabitants. Now shrimp do not really, in the quantity we have, do not really have a large volume of waste that they produce, but I still want to cycle the tank before, still want to cycle the tank. But yeah, so that's where we're at in this process of setting up a new aquarium. And we will next be adding in the inhabitants, the shrimp, today. So stay tuned for that part here in about, I don't know, 30 minutes or so. We have to drip acclimate the shrimp. So let me take a picture and a video of us drip acclimating the shrimp so you can see how to do that as well. All right, so like I said, we have shrimp that arrived. So here, I'm going to show you the shrimp that we have here. So we have shrimp in this water right here. This is the water that they came in. All right. Up here is the water from the tank that they are moving into. And this is a homemade drip acclimator. So just using a cup, I poked a hole in the bottom, added in one of the tube, flow regulators. Took another cup, went to the back, got water, poured it in here, set the drip, and that's what they're doing. And as of right now, we're getting close, so we're almost to the end. Alright, so the next part will be us, taking the shrimp and pouring them into a net and then plopping them into their new aquarium. Now this is a fish in or inhabitant in cycling of an aquarium. So stay tuned for more.
2 hours later.
So we're going to take some water and see if there's any ammonia. I know it's only day 1, but you check every day. This is what you do with the new aquarium. You pull this off, of course, take out 5 milliliters. Now these right here, you can get these at CVS, Walgreens, most pharmacies out there. This is just a 5 milliliter oral syringe. Reason is because on the API test kits, this line is 5 milliliters. So now you're going to use the ammonia bottle number 1, ammonia bottle number 2. This is the easiest test to do out of pretty much all of them besides the pH and a few others, but this is one of the easier ones.
Five minutes later.
Are we good? Mm-hmm. All right, so just as I knew it would be, there's no ammonia, but it is day 1. So day 1 and day 2, we're going to test for ammonia. Day 3, we're going to test for ammonia and nitrite. So as of right now, yellow, see, no green. All right, this is day 2 of setup.
Yeah.
I'm coming from the jungle. Even though I keep normal aquarium thermometers, I like to test with a more accurate thermometer the temperature of the water after a couple days, just to ensure that it is stable. So this is day 4. So today we're going to test ammonia nitrite and nitrate. Now the reason I'm testing the nitrate today is because I did use a pre-cycled filter, so we're going to test it to see if we already have this tank cycled. If we do, then ammonia will be yellow, nitrite will be blue, and this will turn orange. So let's take a look to see what we have. Alright, so as suspected, so ammonia is yellow. You need the light on.
Oh, sorry.
As suspected, the ammonia, as you can see, yellow, no ammonia in there. The nitrite, like I said, pure blue, no nitrites. But because I was cautious and I noticed something in the tank, you know, it just kind of looked like there was some stuff going that I normally don't see until I see nitrates. But as you can see, it's orange. We already have nitrates in the tank. So right now, if you take this indicator and you hold it up here, you'll see that the nitrates are at 5 parts per million right here.
It's like the glare on the box.
Yeah, so it's hard to see
On
with
the-
the glare. That's why I was trying to do tilted. So I can see it's right here at 5 parts per million. So we already have nitrates. So yeah, so we have nitrates. That's a good sign. It means the tank is pretty much cycled. Now that's only because we used pre-cycled media. Now, what do I mean by pre-cycled media? Is that this media has been cycling in an aquarium for 2+ months. If you don't have it in there for that long or longer, you probably won't see this type of, tank setup go this quickly. But because this is a brand new tank, and because I did pull this from another tank and it did shock the bacteria by moving it, I'm still going to finish the 7 days of stability. So the instructions on the back of stability says to add it every day for 7 days, and on the 7th day you basically done, and you only need to add more if you see a problem. So I'm going to add stability in there. I'm also going to add prime, but only a single dose of prime. Why? Because I don't want to pull that out of there until it's been 2 weeks. So you don't want to change any water. You don't want to change any the filters. You don't want to clean them out. Nothing for at least 2 weeks. That is assuming that your ammonia is not above 2 parts per million. Your nitrites are not above 4 parts per million, or a combo of the both ammonia and nitrites, which would mean I can have 2 parts per million ammonia, 2 parts per million of nitrite, or 1 part per million of ammonia and 3 parts per million of nitrites, or 0 ammonia and 4 parts per million nitrites. That's the limit. If it goes over that, if it goes over 2 parts per million ammonia, change the water to get it down, but keep it at 2 parts per million. If it goes over 4 parts per million in total, when you add the ammonia and the nitrites together, you need to do a water change, because that's just too strong and too much for a prime to actually successfully treat, without causing issues. So we don't have to do this, so we're lucky. This took only 4 days to cycle, but I'm going to continue to add this and add prime. So let's finish that part out, and then I will continue out the process, and once I reach 7th day of this right here, I'll do another test. So right now I'm not going to test for the ammonia, I'm not going to test for nitrites anymore, and I'm not going to test for nitrates. At the end of this 7 days, I'm going to do all 3 tests again to see if the results are still the same. If they are, then I'm going to classify this tank as fully cycled and stop putting in prime and stop putting in stability, and only check it and then start checking I'm only going to check the nitrates every single day after that. But if you for some reason decide that you want to start a tank without pre-cycled media. This is going to take much longer. You need to test every single day, and you start testing all three, and you don't stop testing until you literally see no ammonia and no nitrites and only nitrates. That's a lot of saying it. That's a lot in there. Try saying that 3 times fast. But yeah, so as soon as you get to that point, then you can just test for nitrates only so that you can worry about when you want to do your water changes. All right, so let's finish this up. Smells like a skunk. Okay.
Probably because I farted.
No, the prime smells like sulfur.
3 days later.
Today is day 7. Try saying that quickly. So on day 7, so we went from the last part you saw was day 4, but on day 5, on day 6, and today, day 7, all right, you do the same thing. So it's all the same. Every day you're going to add 1 dose of prime, depending on whether or not your levels are higher. If you're at the max, the 4 parts per million total between ammonia and nitrite, then you'll want to add more prime. So you can add prime based on the amount up to 5 times the dose. Every day, up to 7 days, you want to add stability. This is your beneficial bacteria. You do it every day for 7 days. This is one of the beneficial bacteria that actually tells you to do that on the back. All the other ones just say add at one time. But if you add it at the initial creation of this aquarium, when there's no ammonia in that aquarium and the fish poop and it takes 3 days to make ammonia, you're losing half of that bacteria. So that's why I like this, is it actually has the great instructions on adding for 7 days. So that's what we've done for the last 2 days. We've added prime and we've added stability. Day 7, we're going to do the same thing as we do all the other times. Get away, bug. Today, this is mostly a confirmation of what I already had determined. So we'd already found out that because I used a pre-seeded sponge, that we already had nitrates in the aquarium. So today we're going to confirm if there's any ammonia, any nitrites, or any nitrates. All right, so we got our 5 millimeter oral syringe, and we're going to add 5 milliliters to each one. Did I say millimeter? 5 milliliters. There's a line on here which makes it easy. You can dip it in there, but I like to take this and squirt it in there to be more precise. So let's take a look and see if we can confirm that this tank is cycled. So let's start with ammonia. Give a gentle shake. 8 drops of number 1. 8 drops of number 2. And then for this one, you just shake for 5 to 10 seconds. And then you let it sit for 5 minutes. Next, we're going to do the nitrites. This one, like I said, give a gentle shake to get it mixed up in there. We're going to add 5 drops. Shake for 5 to 10 seconds. Now this one you're going to have to invert because a lot of that stuff gets stuck on the bottom somehow. So make sure you invert it all the way. All right, make sure it's fully mixed. Again, same thing. You let it sit for 5 minutes. And then the last one, this one's the most unique one. So you give a gentle shake with number 1. Add 10 drops. Shake it for 10 seconds. That's what it actually says, 10 seconds. Not 5 to 10, 10 seconds. Set that aside. And then you're going to take bottle number 2 and shake it for 30 seconds. And then you'll add the last 10 drops. Now, shake it for 1 minute. Now this one here, and I'll talk through this while I'm shaking it. This one here, if you use your finger like I do, it will turn your finger yellow for a few days. So just kind of know that. Main reason is because we have organic materials in our body, and this latches on to the nitrogen that's on our skin and whatever. So it will turn your skin just a little bit yellow, but it does go away, and it's not too harmful for you. So no big deal. I just don't like putting the caps on because of the fact that I have to add multiple sets of drops. All right, so now we let it sit for the remaining 4 minutes. So hey, Google. Yes, we use Google in our house. We also use Alexa in our house too. They're all over. All right, so while we wait for that, we're going to go over a few things that about the aquarium. So this will confirm that our tank is cycled. Why? Because one, we used pre-cycled media or a pre-seeded sponge that we had pre-seeding in another aquarium for more than 2 months. If you do it for less than 2 months, this cycling process is going to take much longer. If you use a brand new filter, there's a few things that I like to do with it. First, you'll take the filter and you'll rinse it off in dechlorinated water. And then what I like to do on one that's not pre-seeded is to shake this bottle and then pour bacteria all over the actual filter itself. All right, that way they're inside the filter, and that gives it kind of a jump start. And then I'll add the bacteria directly to the water. All right, so that's how I give the filter itself, or the sponge itself, a jump start. The next thing is that when you do it that way and you don't have pre-seeded sponges or pre-seeded, anything, any type of media, this process can take, when you have fish in the aquarium or plants in the aquarium, when you have both, it's better because it goes quicker. But let's just say it's an aquarium with plastic stuff in it, plastic plants, and then fish. It can take anywhere from 2 weeks all the way up to 2 months to cycle your aquarium. Every aquarium is different. It's never going to cycle the same amount of time each time. The main thing is that after the first 2 days, after the first 2 days of testing for ammonia, the third and fourth day of testing for ammonia and nitrites, starting on the 5th day, you want to test for all three every single day. All right. I automatically add prime at a single dose every 24 hours. Why? Because I buy a big bottle, and a single dose on this little aquarium is not a lot. 10-gallon aquarium, not a lot. 75-gallon aquarium, that might be quite a bit. So if you are cycling a bigger aquarium, you can hold off on the prime until you see ammonia the very first time. All right, when you see that the first time, start adding the prime. Or you can get one of CChem's indicators. So this is it's a little plastic thing with an ammonia indicator on there. You pull it off, try not to touch the center thing, because if you touch the center thing, then it will basically make it not work. So once you pull the little plastic off and put it in the water, it's yellow to start, and you want to get it in there before there's any ammonia. Once ammonia starts, the color of the little circle will turn green. All right, that is a good indicator of, hey, you need to start adding prime. And so that's another way. And you can get them for anywhere between $6 up to $14, depending on where you buy it. Amazon, they normally sell them in 3-packs because they do expire at the end of every year. We use them on all of our tanks. Here we are not using it because we're showing you what to do without it. But yeah, so we automatically just add prime every day, stability for the 7 days total, even if it's a pre-seeded sponge, mainly because we just want to make sure that the bacteria has time to grow. If for some reason there is no ammonia in that aquarium, or it's not being produced, quick enough for the pre-seeded sponge. So that can happen. So I do both. Plants. So let's go back to that. So like I said, if you have plastic plants and fish, it can take anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months, sometimes even longer. If you have live plants and fish in there when you start, I've seen tanks cycle as quickly as a week. This one right here, it only took a week.
Hey Google, just use timer.
All right, so it only took a week, mainly because it's a small aquarium. I have live plants, and I use a pre-seeded sponge, as well as I have inhabitants in there. So the inhabitants are pooping. The Java moss in there already had some decaying matter on there, so that was going to add ammonia. And then, of course, the pre-seeded sponge already had the bacteria to consume it. So this was just a win-win scenario that, just happened to work out really quickly in just 1 week or 7 days, and it's fully cycled, which is awesome. It doesn't always happen that way. Just know that. So yeah, so let's just say you don't put fish in there. You don't put any fish in there. You don't put any live plants in there. All right, and you just have water, plastic plants, or driftwood, or whatever it is in there. Then you need to add an ammonia source. I do not recommend adding in fish food or decaying matter like, frozen shrimp or anything like that. I don't recommend that because that's just, you shouldn't be doing that. Just get an ammonia source. Fritz Fishless Fuel. You can buy that bottle of ammonia. It's only about $6. I mean, I found it on Amazon for $5.99, and it's pure ammonia. You're going to start out by getting the parts per million up to 2 parts per million with it, following the instructions on the back of the bottle. So you want to go a little less, wait an hour or so or whatever it says, and then test the water to see where you're at. And if it's not quite there, add a couple more drops until you get it to 2 parts per million. Once you get it there, the problem is that people do that. They add in the bacteria, they get it started, and they start seeing the ammonia disappear, and now they have nitrites. Now they're adding in more ammonia. You don't want to do that. You don't want to add in any more ammonia after that. All right? You don't want to add any more ammonia until you get to the final stage of the cycle. Once you get to where there's no ammonia, no nitrites, and all you see is nitrates, if you're not going to add fish within 24 hours or 48 hours, you need to start adding more ammonia in there to keep that beneficial bacteria alive. But who likes doing it that way? People like to get an aquarium and they want to see fish in there right away, right? Well, this is the safest method by using Seachem Prime or Fritz Complete and Seachem Stability or Fritz Zyme 7. Either one works. That way your fish are safe. You have your test kit. You're monitoring the water to make sure that it's cycled. And you're doing your due diligence to watch your fish. Any signs of stress, you may want to add more prime if the ammonia nitrites or nitrates are elevated. But the biggest thing is test every single day. Test every single day. Test every single day. Once you get to that point with the fish in, the plants in, or just fish in by itself, and you see no more ammonia, no more nitrites, your tank is technically cycled at that moment. But that doesn't mean you need to stop testing. You still need to test every day for a few more weeks after that, up to a month after that, and then you can switch over to, every other day or once a week or whatever it is. But you can start doing testing over where there's spacing in between the days. That way, it actually truly is cycled. You don't need to add any more, any more stability or prime if you have no more ammonia and nitrite. So as I confirmed, we have no ammonia, it's still yellow, and we have no nitrites, all right, which means I do not need to add stability anymore. This is the 7th day. And as I confirmed previously, we still have, looks like it's in between 5 and 10 parts per million, so it's roughly about, I would say, maybe 7 to 8 parts per million of nitrates. Why is that going up slowly? Because of the Java moss. The Java moss actually absorbs nitrogens in the aquarium. But yeah, this tank is technically cycled, so there ain't anything I need to do except for testing over and over. And of course, monitoring the fish or the inverts. Now, we did lose a couple, but that was due to a molting issue. We drip acclimated them, and sometimes that happens. So some shrimp, the Neocaridina shrimp, get stressed out, and when you drop them into the new environment, they molt within a few days, which I've already mentioned this before, but they molt within a few days, and unfortunately, some of them just can't get that molt off, and because of that, they end up dying. So that was bound to happen. But the 5 that are still left out of the 8 that we had in there, because we didn't put a lot, and they were all males, so they're not going to recreate in there or procreate in there and create babies. They were all males. Those 5 did molt. I have seen all of them, all of their moltings, so they will survive. as long as I keep the minerals elevated, all right, and the water stable. So the pH at around 7 and the temperature between 77 to 79. That's roughly where I keep it. Right now it's at 77.6. I have a thermometer here, but I like to actually put in a real thermometer. And then, of course, you got air in there. So, yeah. So that's how you cycle a new aquarium. Testing, bacteria, prime, monitoring, and patience. You need a lot of patience. So, well, thank you so much for coming back to NoobAquatics and watching this long video. I do apologize that it's long, but I don't like to split my videos into part 1, part 2, part 3. I like you to find all your information in one place so that you can see the whole process that we follow when cycling an aquarium or any of our other videos. So if you like the videos, please make sure that you subscribe, hit the like button, all right, and have a wonderful day.